Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Fusion Deck User in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 181, Incomplete Deck vs. Incomplete Deck. Director Goodwin, can you provide us with a reasonable explanation for what's currently happening? Inside the Security Bureau, Rex Goodwin slightly turned his head to look at a nearby screen. On that screen were the esteemed members of the city's highest ruling body, the Council, who were currently scrutinizing Goodwin. We suffered a severe defeat in our first duel against these interdimensional visitors. This greatly tarnishes our world's reputation, a dignified elder spoke. Although it was intended as a preliminary duel, and we only sent out 2 local duelists, frequent losses from satellite duelists wouldn't look good from a public relations standpoint. Why didn't you directly send out the king? If he had competed, we certainly wouldn't have lost. These people deeply trusted Jack Atlas because, up to this point, he had never lost a duel, earning him the undisputed title of king in their world. Goodwin stood calmly with his hands behind his back, enduring the reprimands from his superiors. On the surface, he appeared both strong and refined, meticulously groomed, dressed impeccably in a suit and gloves. His mere presence inspired admiration among politicians, a face naturally suited to win votes. Yet, despite his climb to Director of Security, he was still relatively insignificant compared to the Council. Well, Director Goodwin, is this how you're going to stand silently? One elder challenged. No, Goodwin said softly, I'm simply waiting. Waiting? Waiting for our duelist to bring you victory. Oh? The elders exchanged glances. You truly trust those satellite folk? Of course, Goodwin affirmed, because the duelist stepping up right now, Uci Fudo, happens to be an old friend of the king. Oh. Now that's genuinely worth anticipating. If that's the case, let us see if this young man can indeed bring victory. With that, they ceased further questioning, shifting their curiosity toward the ongoing duel. In their world, dueling held tremendous prestige and was the pinnacle of careers. Due to the existence of momentum, dueling generated energy that powered the perpetual motion machines, making the city the world's most advanced metropolis and the apex of society. Thus, even the council elders and elite upper-class citizens were devoted fans. If this was indeed the king's friend, it was certainly worth looking forward to. Goodwin stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his expression unchanged. However, his clenched fists betrayed hidden tension. He closed the communication device and turned toward the window. From this top floor of the Security Bureau, one couldn't actually see satellite duels, but Goodwin had deliberately relocated his office here to observe the broken bridge and the decaying satellite district. Rex Goodwin had a secret. He wasn't originally from the upper district. He had once ridden his dual runner across a broken bridge to reach the upper district. The famous Deadless Bridge legend was his creation, single-handedly building the incomplete bridge, then leaping across it during a pursuit by security, becoming a legendary figure. He had a plan. Through immense effort, he became Director of Security, only to discover this wasn't the pinnacle of the city's power hierarchy. Above him was the Council. Ridiculous. Just a group of decaying, incompetent fools. He turned his gaze toward the dual broadcast. The arrival of these interdimensional beings presented him with new opportunities and ideas. He casually pulled several cards from his sleeve, glanced at them, then softly clapped his hands. At his applause, a shadow rose slowly, shaping into a skeletal figure. He observed it before smiling and handing over the cards. I've found an interesting individual, he remarked, watching Hikaru on screen. If we don't want the dual dragon's power in this world, why not simply send it away to another dimension? That would ensure absolute safety. He wasn't particularly interested in other worlds, just thoroughly disappointed in this one. From Hikaru's dueling and proclamations, Goodwin sensed this individual was trustworthy. As for the rest, he intended to use the opportunity, while everyone focused on these interdimensional visitors, to shift the strongest security forces to the satellite district, seizing true power. Meanwhile, back in the satellite district arena, the duel had reached an intense climax. Jesse Anderson, representing the Duel Academy's Arctic Circle, or North, branch, faced off against the enigmatic satellite duelist, UCI Fudo. On UCI's field stood a small bird and an odd plane-like monster. Jesse had 4 differently colored crystal beasts surrounding him protectively like family members, along with a robust mammoth standing firm. UCI briefly assessed his hand and summoned, I normal summon Junk Synchron. When summoned, it special summons a level 3 or lower monster from my graveyard. I special summon level 2 Speed Warrior from my graveyard. I tune level 2 Speed Warrior with level 3 Junk Synchron. Gathered stars awaken a newborn strength, becoming a shining path. Synchro Summon. Appear, Junk Warrior. A robot with glowing red eyes emerged amidst stardust, striking a dynamic pose. Junk Warrior, level 5 DRK Warrior 2300 ATK. Upon Synchro summoning, Junk Warrior's attack increases by the total ATK of all level 2 or lower monsters I control. Sonic Chick's ATK is 300, and Jet Synchron's ATK is 500, making Junk Warrior's ATK 3100. Junk Warrior, ATK 23003100. Impressive, UCI. Although they just met, Jesse warmly addressed UCI. UCI nodded gently, responding by activating another card from his hand, quick play spell, Scrap Fist. Targeting Junk Warrior, this turn, when it battles, your monster effects, spells, and traps can activate during damage calculation. It gains piercing damage and doubles the damage inflicted. It won't be destroyed by battle this turn, and your monster that battled it at the end of the damage step is destroyed. Oh no! Jaden shouted, realizing the danger. Jesse's Amber Mammoth has 1700 ATK. If this hits, even with 2500 LP, he'll lose. You're truly impressive, UCI. But I can't just stand by, I activate Rainbow Gravity. Since I control all 7 crystal beasts, I special summon an ultimate crystal monster. Your ace monster? UCI prepared himself. The crystal beasts shimmered brilliantly, signaling the arrival of something powerful. Jaden cheered excitedly, while UCI watched gravely until the light dissipated, leaving only Amber Mammoth. Ah, sorry, Jesse sheepishly scratched his head. The archaeological team hasn't excavated the ultimate crystal card yet, so I don't actually have it. The stunned audience, including Jaden and Chaz, visibly deflated. Even Hikaru felt a jolt. Originally, Jesse's crystal beasts were unique cards from Pegasus, however, the crucial Rainbow Dragon had always eluded discovery. UCI, usually serious, chuckled softly, that's unfortunate. Let's duel again someday when we're both complete. Battle. Junk Warrior attack Amber Mammoth. The duel ended explosively. Unlike Yugo, the police weren't hostile toward victorious UCI, even offering praise. Returning inside, he found Yugo analyzing his cards. If only I had done this earlier, Yugo muttered regretfully. You should have activated Daiko Duke sooner. How was I supposed to know he'd fuse monsters from my graveyard? I've never even seen a tuner fusion monster. Next time, I'll know better. UCI smiled. With supportive juniors and friendly interdimensional visitors, perhaps life still held hope. UCI, wasn't it your turn? It's over. I won. Already? Yeah, the opponent's deck was incomplete. He reflected, his own deck also felt incomplete, with Stardust Dragon taken by Jack. Yet, overall, both sides having a win and a loss on the first day was good news. Chapter 182, Mid-Tournament. The first day's duels thus concluded. The Friendship Cup was planned to last about half a month. Although 2 duels were held just on the opening day, if duels continued at that pace, the tournament would finish in a matter of days. However, since it was meant to showcase friendship, naturally, there were interdimensional interactions and events between duels. Thus, alongside duels, information exchange between worlds was ongoing. After the first day's duels, both worlds gained a general understanding of each other's dueling styles. Yet, it was just 2 duels, not sufficient for deep comprehension. The subsequent interactions between the Security Bureau and Kaiba Corp would be crucial. Honestly, Seto Kaiba felt this approach was putting the cart before the horse, so he lost interest fast. However, as head of Kaiba Corp, he shouldered the responsibility, at least symbolically. Once dueling concluded, the cameras withdrew. Around the event area, security officers increased rather than decreased. The Security Bureau had allocated a piece of land to Kaiba Corp, where they were free to operate, provided no weapons threatening the city were constructed. Kaiba Corp wasted no time demolishing nearby dilapidated buildings to rapidly construct new structures with incredibly advanced tech, serving as temporary residences for competitors. In their free time, Jaden and Jesse, who hit it off immediately, found a table to duel at. Ches stood nearby providing commentary, while Alexis, curious about the city competitors, joined Hikaru to explore. In the satellite competitors area, they saw UCI and Yugo, making up only 7 visible competitors. The rest presumably were upper city duelists arranged by city elites. The Security Bureau showed no concern about satellite residents interacting with the interdimensional visitors during downtime, confident these lower-class satellite individuals posed no real threat, let alone forming any rebellion by colluding with outsiders. Their confidence wasn't mere arrogance, practicality dictated that interdimensional visitors, whether duelists or Kaiba Corp, wouldn't remain long-term. Thus, interdimensional cooperation logically favored stable governance rather than supporting impoverished satellite residents. Given this understanding, satellite competitors freely interacted with Hikaru and his companions. Alexis, intrigued by Rin's resemblance to Selena, approached with Hikaru. Unlike Hikaru, who simply wanted to chat with favorite characters like UCI and Yugo, Alexis, as the representative of the Academy's girls' dorm and caretaker for Selena, quickly warmed up to Rin. Sharing Selena's photos earned Rin's trust swiftly, leading her to affectionately call Alexis Big Sister. Similarly, Rin treated Hikaru respectfully as he was another world's version of Selena's mentor. Notably, Hikaru's genuine nature, his passion for fusion summoning aside, further earned her acceptance. That night, Hikaru stayed in Kaiba Corp's temporary dorms. Besides checking his deck, he used the Emerald Book to contact Captain Crystal, checking his workshop status. Hikaru's interactions with Yugo and UCI weren't merely socializing but rather groundwork for potential future contracts through the book. Although uncertain whether Leo Akaba of their world would follow the original plot, preparing wouldn't hurt. Soon, day 3 arrived. The familiar helicopter appeared with the enthusiastic MC and cold security officers. Upper city residents set up cameras again. Today, Seto Kaiba didn't attend, presumably losing interest, and instead sent a subordinate. The selected duelist for today was Jaden. Yet his opponent wasn't present. Ha! Strange, where is he? Oh? Officer Rio? Are you here, Officer Rio? The MC glanced around, loudly asking into his microphone. Did something happen? Perhaps it's time for a story? But soon, the TV station relayed that this duelist named Rio wasn't late, he simply wasn't present. Rio was a rookie from the Security Bureau, slightly older than Jaden and considered a rising star among security officers. As an elite from the upper district, he had little interest visiting the messy satellite district. However, as the council chose an elite representing their world's strength, absence was unacceptable. Immediately after notification, he rode his police D-wheel swiftly to the scene. Arriving, he removed his helmet casually, dusted himself off, glanced at Jaden, and said condescendingly, "Sorry I'm late, not that it matters. I'll win anyway." "What did you say?" Chaz, offended by Rio's tone, raised a fist angrily from the sidelines. "Oh, so confident?" Jaden said, surprised. "It's not confidence, it's fact. If you struggled even against satellite trash, how could you possibly defeat me?" Rio casually discarded his gloves onto his vehicle, openly provocative. Even Jaden, known for his easygoing nature, couldn't help but furrow his brow, growing angry. Chapter 183, regarding Duel Academy duelist Jaden Yuki, the futility of fate. Whoa, looks like both duelists are fired up before the match. The MC gave a light cough to control the situation. This strange duelist, Rio, was a genius officer specifically chosen by the council, a textbook elite upper city duelist who looked down on everyone not named Jack Atlas. To think he'd even trash talk an interdimensional visitor this time. Seeing the atmosphere get tense, the MC hastily redirected the focus. The Friendship Cup is a dueling event promoting peace and friendship between two worlds. Today is day 2 of the Friendship Cup. Our duelists are: from the Security Bureau, Genius Officer Rio. And from another dimension, the hero who commands elemental forces, Jaden Yuki. Hero? Pfft, ha. Heroes? That's so childish. This time, not just Jaden, but even Aster Phoenix, who was watching the broadcast because Sartorius predicted Jaden would appear today, frowned. Hey, take that back. Jaden was now completely enraged. Don't destroy a kid's dream. Humph, Rio scoffed without another word. After all, in his world, Elemental Hero was just a trash deck nobody used. Duel. Rio, LP, 4000. Jaden Yuki, LP, 4000. My turn. I set one monster in defense position, Giant Rat. I set one card and end my turn. Giant Rat, level 4 Earth Beast DF 1450. Rio ended his turn swiftly. That's it? Many spectators from Jaden's world shook their heads. Setting a giant rat in defense just to be destroyed later? Isn't that basic? And this is what passes as an elite or genius duelist. Be careful, Jaden. Maybe he has some weird trap. Got it. Jaden nodded to Avian's voice, though he wasn't too worried. I normal summon Sparkman. Sparkman attack Giant Rat. Elemental Hero Sparkman, level 4 Light Warrior ATK 1600. Jaden's skilled warrior appeared for the first time on this interdimensional dueling stage. His attack was meant to be a probe for traps, but it ended up easily destroying the Giant Rat. Giant Rat's effect: when destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, I can special summon an earth monster with 1500 or less ATK from my deck. I special summon another Giant Rat. Another oversized rodent appeared on his field. Jaden frowned. Confused. Is that it? Was he really just stalling with giant rats to prep for a synchro? I set one card and end my turn. The duel began with a simple monster trade. Humph, see? You duel against satellite rats, and all you can do is fight more rats. Jaden, though enraged, was calmed down by how perplexed he felt. From what Mr. UCI told me these past 2 days, the difference between Upper City and Satellite was caused by a past explosion, nothing more. So why belittle your own people over that? While Hikaru had spent the last few days hanging out with UCI and watching him tune his D-wheel, Jaden had joined in too, driven by curiosity. He'd asked questions about Satellite, Upper City, and their divide. From what he'd learned, this city once had no class division. Everyone lived as one until a single failed experiment split them and seeded prejudice. How ridiculous. Equals? Don't kid yourself. Everyone has their place. Some are born to stay in sewers. Others get to enjoy everything. That's how the world works. Just like you, so-called hero. Ever think about the kids watching you on TV, those who'll never make it to this stage? How different are you from them now? You. Jaden's face darkened. Watching the broadcast, Aster instinctively slammed his fist on the table. Everyone has their place? That's dangerously close to talking about destiny. But Rio's words were simply unacceptable. You think saying some flashy lines and talking back to an elite like me makes you a hero? It changes nothing. Rio sneered. After you leave, Satellite Scum will still be chased underground by the cops, and the Upper City will use the tech we get from you people to make life even better for ourselves. Your presence might even cost them what little space they had. This is reality. You're no hero, just a student. You can't change anything. Rio pointed accusingly. Fresh out of the academy, he had already become a security bureau elite, labeled a genius. With the council's backing, he'd succeeded in hunting satellite filth and now held immense superiority. He truly saw himself as a veteran worthy of lecturing this school kid on how the world really works. Now I'll show you exactly where so-called heroes belong. He drew a card and revealed his hand. Normal summon, Juddy Fighter. I tune level 2 Juddy Fighter with level 4 Giant Rat. Synchro summon level 6, Goyo Guardian. Chains spun in the air, whirling a whip overhead. A samurai-like enforcer appeared with a smirk. Goyo Guardian, level 6 Earth Warrior ATK 2800. Level 6 with 2800 ATK. Oh. Officer Rio has summoned a synchro monster with 2800 attack and incredible force. Battle. Goyo Guardian attacks Sparkman. The enforcer flung his chain, smashing Sparkman. Jaiden's LP plummeted. Jaden Yuki, LP, 2800. Goyo Guardian's effect. When it destroys a monster in battle, it special summons that monster in defense position to my field. The chain Sparkman was dragged to Rio's side, stunned and locked in defense. Elemental Hero Sparkman, level 4 Light Warrior DF 1400. Elemental Hero relies on fusion summoning, right? Now your monster is trapped on my field. How will you fuse? Let's be honest. This deck is already obsolete in our world. Better drop it now. When you activated that monster effect, I activate my trap hero signal. When a monster is destroyed in battle and sent to the graveyard, I special summon a level 4 or lower elemental hero from my hand or deck. I special summon Elemental Hero Bubbleman. Elemental Hero Bubbleman, level 4 Water Warrior ATK 800. Jaden watched Sparkman stolen to the other field as he summoned Bubbleman to his own. He then sent Hero Signal to the graveyard. Bubbleman's effect. When this card is summoned and I control no other cards, I draw 2 cards. Expressionless, Jaden drew. What's with that vibe? Chaz swallowed nervously. It was intimidating. Very intimidating. TCH, pointless struggling. Rio shook his head. I end my turn. Chapter 184, on the hero from another dimension, Jaden Yuki, and his understanding of villains and justice. Jaden silently watched his opponent. A faint glint of gold flickered across his eyes but quickly faded. Actually, he wasn't angry anymore. Because he knew his opponent wasn't even worth getting angry at. Instead, he found himself recalling everything that had happened recently. Everyone is born into their place in the world, huh? If that were true, then he must have been born a villain. Because from childhood, countless kids around him had mysteriously been hurt or fallen into comas because of him. He was someone who brought pain. He was born a disaster. And yet, he had endured that pain, made real friends, and those friends supported him, even when they ended up in another dimension. They had each other's backs, even willing to get hurt just to protect him. Yes. He wasn't angry. He was simply reminded again of Bastion getting hurt because of him. That voice he heard back then, it was no hallucination. He wasn't born a hero, but maybe he was born to attract evil. Which to others, made him a natural-born villain. And now it seemed, the evil he had once cast off into another dimension was back, trying to reclaim him, to torment his friends all over again. Just like this guy said, he couldn't bring heroism or justice. These past days, he'd watched how the Satellite District residents were being tormented by security officers. He wanted to intervene, yet even when he beat a cop, all that happened was the officer would grit his teeth, apologize respectfully, and then likely retaliate worse somewhere out of sight. Was he truly accomplishing anything? He thought back on the past 2 days. When he was just goofing off, seeking duels, Hikaru had been tinkering with UCI and the others, even sharing things he got from Kaiba Corp with friends and strangers in the Satellite District, whether food or other stuff. Hikaru had his own thoughts and understanding. He seemed to trust UCI a lot, often agreeing with him and saying that maybe meeting UCI was the greatest treasure of this whole dimensional trip. At the time, Jaden had just gone in to help on impulse, but that joy and passion were real. Heroes are never fake. I don't use heroes just because they're cool. Even if he couldn't help this world's people, even if he couldn't change their situation, as long as he could make more people smile through duels, maybe even give them hope, that was enough. Jaden suddenly smiled wide. You were talking about places, right? You're a cop, aren't you, Officer Rio? Of course, isn't it obvious at a glance? Don't tell me you couldn't tell that? Ha! Standing against the cops, doing what they can't or won't do, that's what being a vigilante is all about. His smile returned. Sorry, Officer Rio, but I was born to rebel. Rio furrowed his brow. Hikaru, today I'm borrowing your favorite catchphrase. Final turn. Off to the side, the MC gasped and shouted into the mic, WW, what did I just hear? Viewers. Jaden, the interdimensional duelist, just declared victory now in turn 4. But Rio is clearly the one with the upper hand. Final turn. Can that even happen now? Stop talking nonsense. Rio scoffed. How are you going to overcome my field and my set cards to win this duel? Ha! Then everyone watching, please see for yourselves, my turn, draw. Jaden drew a card, glanced at it, and the next moment, he slapped it onto the field. Normal summon, Elemental Hero Stratos. Elemental Hero Stratos, Level 4 WIND Warrior 1800 ATK. The windblown hero made his dramatic entrance. Hikaru, watching from the sidelines, blinked. You didn't have this card before. If he had, Hikaru would have found a way to trade something strong for it ages ago, there's no reason he wouldn't. So you printed this secretly, huh? And it was freshly printed at that. When this card is normal or special summoned, I can activate its effect to add one hero monster from my deck to my hand, or destroy spell/trap cards on my field up to the number of other hero monsters I control. He glanced at his opponent and pointed at the set card. I destroy your set card. The set card flipped up, it was Sakuretsu Armor. Unmistakably, it had been waiting to destroy one of Jaden's powerful monsters. However, against Stratos, it wasn't worth activating. TCH, even so, I still have. Next, I activate the spell card, Double Fusion. Jaden cut him off, revealing a card showing 2 fusion circles. I pay 500 life points to fusion summon twice this turn. Jaden, LP, 2800-2300. Hikaru, seeing that card, rubbed his chin thoughtfully. To be honest, that card was weak. All it did was let you fuse twice. Still, compared to its real-world version, this one was ridiculously strong. The real card didn't let you fuse twice at will, you had to do both fusions at once. I fuse Elemental Hero Bubbleman on the field with Burstinatrix from my hand to fusion summon Elemental Hero Absolute Zero. He swung his arm, and a white-caped hero leapt forth. Elemental Hero Absolute Zero, Level 8 Water Warrior 2500 ATK. 2500 attack? That's no match for Goyo Guardian. Jaden smiled softly before turning to face the cameras, waving a bit awkwardly, trying to pose like a real hero. Thereafter, he turned back. Heroes don't run from danger. Even in the worst situations, heroes fight together, and that's when they shine brightest. Question mark. The MC blinked. Hey, are you stealing my job? But weirdly, it still kinda sounded legit. I fuse Absolute Zero on the field with Avian in my hand. What? The MC quickly jumped back in. He just used his hard-earned ace monster as fusion material. What is Jaden planning? Fusion materials, 1 elemental hero plus 1 wind monster. Come forth, my beloved hero, level 8, elemental hero Great Tornado. Elemental hero Great Tornado. Level 8 WIND Warrior 2800 ATK. Layered armor enveloped Avian's body. He swept his arms outward, his cape flapping in a windstorm, glaring coldly at his opponent. Jaden may not have cared and may have already lost interest in Rio, anyhow, as his loyal sidekick. If he didn't give that guy a good beatdown right now, he wouldn't be doing his job. After returning from the Warrior's realm to Jaden's side, he'd made up his mind to toughen up. Even if that thing ever tried to hurt Jaden again, he would make it pay. 2800 attack, same as Goyo Guardian? But how are you going to win? Sorry. This duel is already over. When Absolute Zero leaves the field, its effect activates, destroy all monsters your opponent controls. Disappear, corrupt cop. Return to me, my hero. Icy wind howled. Snow fell. The hulking warrior instantly froze into a statue before shattering into glittering powder. Just like that, Rio's field was wiped clean. For some reason, he felt chilled to the bone, as if frost had crept over his skin. Incredible effect. The sudden cold made the MC stammer, but he kept commentating hard. In an instant, Rio's monsters were annihilated. Even the stolen hero was turned into a glorious ice statue, a true emblem of justice. What now, Rio? This might be the end of the road. Can you even recover from this? This can't be. I was supposed to be the genius cop of the security bureau. I can't lose to a guy from Satellite, let alone one win, one loss with them. Rio was utterly unwilling to accept the result. No matter, he had no cards in hand that could save him now. Only one ending remained. Battle. Stratos, direct attack. Rio, LP, 2200. Now, Great Tornado, direct attack. Jaden tried to call out a flashy attack name, but Great Tornado had already charged at Rio in a blur, slamming a kick into him and launching him a dozen meters back into a barricade. Rio let out a groan as he collapsed from the rebound. That hurt. Jaden looked on, baffled. But then laughed aloud, shook it off, and flicked two fingers toward his opponent. Victory! Now that was a fun duel. He hadn't even gone all out, but... Hearing that, the already confused and self-doubting Rio fainted, overwhelmed by pain and the freezing cold. Chapter 185, Post-Event Accountability? With the duel concluded, the MC excitedly launched into his closing speech, while Jaden, looking a little worn out, shook his head and kept waving at the cameras. The third duel was over, which wrapped up today's matchups. Tomorrow, a tag duel exhibition match was scheduled purely for entertainment. At first, the S-Dimension hadn't planned for any tag matches since their structure was simple: 8 duelists, a series of individual matches, and the final winner would duel their king. But after Chief Godwin heard that traveling in pairs was the safest mode during dimensional travel, and that tag duels were often more acceptable for duel spirits, they began organizing accordingly. Still, in this world, even standard duels weren't very popular anymore, let alone tag duels, which were practically non-existent. So they designated it purely as an entertainment event, to be held after a few formal duels. After the duel, the duelist named Rio didn't wake for quite some time. The staff and security officers of S-Dimension whispered among themselves, assuming he'd been knocked out. Some claimed Jaden had supernatural powers and that interdimensional people were dangerous. Kaiba had no interest in such drivel. He already knew Jaden Yuki had once been recognized by Yugi and was even gifted a winged Kuriboh. That kind of thing didn't concern him. So what if someone was knocked out? Big deal. Just some mental backlash. He'd taken worse. Since the event was billed under friendship, the two worlds resumed cultural exchanges after the duel. While synchron summons were still out of reach for them, tuner monsters were gaining popularity. Likewise, the two worlds had been actively sharing technological advancements. In fact, Dr. Fudo, one of the event participants, proposed a theory that the S-Dimension wasn't a parallel world at all, but rather a possible future of their own world. Kaiba immediately scoffed at this. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. He'd never even heard of Kaiba Corp existing in this world, how could it be their future? Still, Dr. Fudo and that UCI kid looked suspiciously alike. Then again, some contestants did look a lot like people from their own world. Maybe that's just how parallel worlds worked. So the only possible answer, Dr. Fudo must be UCI Fudo's parallel world counterpart. If Hikaru had heard that theory, he'd have blurted out, "What kind of father looks like his own son?" Meanwhile, the Council of Elders, instead of feeling shame for having inserted a rising star of the Security Bureau, constantly nitpicked Godwin's choices and arrangements. Director Godwin, you never told us interdimensional duelists could harm people during duels. I think that's fairly normal, Godwin said calmly. After all, our world also has psychics and even witches. Such occurrences should be expected in parallel worlds. So what if someone got knocked out? He could kill people if he wanted. This was nothing. That's just how duels were. Those who only watched from the sidelines wouldn't understand. That's why he had always shown leniency toward the elders. Besides, that officer provoked his opponent first. Getting defeated in a powerful duel and being unable to bear the result, a coma, isn't far-fetched, he added. From his deep understanding of duels, especially shadow duels, Godwin was certain Jaden Yuki hadn't meant to go dark. If he had, Rio wouldn't have merely passed out. Director Godwin, we're asking why you didn't prepare in advance, a female elder cut him off. That witch attacked indiscriminately, yet you failed to make provisions. A promising young man is now unconscious. Promising, huh? Godwin wore his usual genial smile. The closer they got to moments like this, the more forgiving he became toward the council. After all, heh. As for being a genius, don't make him laugh. Let's be honest. They saw how popular King Jack Atlas had become among duelists and citizens alike, and now wanted their own star by copying his path. While they were at it, they wanted to flood the Security Bureau with loyalists to monitor Godwin, whose influence was clearly growing. But there was a fundamental difference between the two. Rio was just an upper district noble's puppet and actor with high rarity cards and powerful synchro monsters. Jack Atlas was different. Even if some opponents were set up to lose, Jack held on to his beliefs as a duelist. He might not be as strong as he appeared, however, he had a burning duelist's heart. He couldn't be compared to some pompous brat who relied on privilege and a powerful deck to talk down to younger duelists. Still, since they were so insistent, what could he say? He would simply go along with them. After all, for the soon-to-be-dead, one should be generous. Understood. I failed to consider this fully. Godwin placed a hand on his chest and bowed slightly. His robe bore a strange emblem, like some tribal bird sigil. Interdimensional people are too dangerous, the Elder-in-Chief spoke. We must not let our guard down. Godwin, this was your negligence. We'll discuss your punishment later. He was a master of blame-shifting. Nonetheless, Godwin kept his warm smile. That's right. Don't forget, there are still turbo duels planned around the satellite district. If we don't plan carefully, those interdimensional duelists might invade our great city. We must be prepared, another elder chimed in. Then I'll assign more personnel to security. We can reassign more officers from the upper districts. The satellite district won't be able to cause much trouble. Yes. Understood. Godwin answered softly. That was one thing the elders liked about him. He was gentle, warm, obedient to every command, a model representative to handle affairs on their behalf. Most of all, he was excellent at taking the blame. Truly, the perfect subordinate. And with that, Godwin folded his hands behind his back, smiled, and ended the video call. Thereafter, he turned to the next task. If they were so eager, then they shouldn't complain about what was coming. Not now, elders. Chapter 186, When Bastion is Most Present. It was the 5th day of the Friendship Cup, and today featured the entertainment-oriented tag duel. Though labeled as entertainment, this world didn't teach duelists how to tag duel, so Godwin had to recruit a pair of pro duelists who were close friends. The Council of Elders, meanwhile, provided noble duelists whom they personally favored. But regardless of origin, they were all way older than the stated age range, well beyond the student category. Naturally, Godwin had already cleared it with Kaiba beforehand. This duel was purely for show and wouldn't count toward final results. Those two sisters are going up against pros? Alexis paid particular attention to the Taylor sisters as fellow girl duelists. She tried reaching out during the past few days, yet the sisters had been nothing but dismissive. Or rather, outright hostile. She didn't really understand why, but every time the Taylor sisters saw her walking by, they looked like they wanted to punch her. From a girl standpoint alone, the sisters were utterly outclassed, a complete defeat. Pro duelists. This world's average duelists aren't weak, even the supposedly disregarded ones from the satellite district. So if they're pros, they must be elite. The sisters are students, right? Can they really handle it? One staffer asked. What did the president say? He said, real duelists don't fear a challenge. Yep, that sounded like Kaiba. Originally, the other side even allowed our younger duelists some advantages against the pros, like choosing first or second turn, or restricting opponent monster use. Despite that, it seems the Taylor sisters refused all of that. Hearing this, Ches folded his arms and nodded lightly. Looks like those two Fusion Army girls are extremely confident in their dueling. Confident? Gloria Taylor spun on her heel, smiling radiantly, waving one hand as if stirring the air, like a proud war general. Chaz frowned slightly. It's not just confidence. Her twin, Grace Taylor, turned gracefully, gave a small curtsy, adjusted her skirt, and addressed the Fusion Club members. We are the strongest tag duelists. And you Fusion Club folks better watch closely. With that, the twin duelists marched onto the field, leaving Jaden and Chaz staring after them. That confident, huh? American duelists sure are something, Jesse said in surprise. But hey, Jaden, what's up between you and them? Didn't you get any of that? Jaden said curiously. Get what? Fusion Army. Jesse shook his head. Total knowledge gap. Despite hanging out often these past days, neither of them knew much about the other's school. Plus, Jesse had a terrible sense of direction, he couldn't even find his way back to base without a dual spirit guide. He rarely left campus and was clueless about outside matters. As a rep from the North Academy Arctic branch, Jesse's school was so remote that not even Leo Akaba had extended influence there. Being a northerner, he naturally didn't know much about the Fusion Army. And since he'd spent most of this time with Jaden, he'd never visited the Fusion Army duelists, making him completely in the dark. Seeing this, Ches cleared his throat and gave a brief overview, including Hikaru's year-long efforts and the ongoing feud between the Fusion Club and the Polymerization Club. To be fair, it was more like they one-sidedly trounced the other club. Even so, Jesse was fired up. He lamented missing out on such an awesome brawl and swore he would have fought alongside them, despite never using fusion cards. So, those girls, they're your enemies next semester? Chaz nodded slightly. Though Jesse might be an outsider, looking at it now, the tournament contenders were clearly divided, Fusion Club students versus Fusion Army students, two factions with distinct goals. They were here to have fun, or like Chaz, to show off and earn attention. The Fusion Army, on the other hand, came to flex, gain reputation, and observe Hikaru up close, showcasing their power in the process. Fusion Summon. Come forth, Level 8 Amazonas Empress. Me too, Fusion Summon. Arise, Level 7 Amazonas Petliger. Each sister, in turn, Fusion summoned their ace monster during their respective turns and launched attacks. At first, when they saw the cards, Hikaru and the others weren't impressed, just confused. Amazonas? Chaz blinked. Amazonas. Jaden folded his arms, frowning. Alexis rubbed her temples helplessly. Seriously, Amazonas. What's wrong with Amazonas? Jesse was puzzled. Well, that's another story. Hikaru twitched at the mouth and avoided explaining. No one knew what Bastion, still watching the stream back in their world, was feeling right now. Relax. They're human. Ghosts and gods don't like them. Don't make Bastion sound like a perv. Jaden interjected, defending him. I kinda think he is, though. Alexis muttered under her breath. Back during the Shadow Riders incident, Bastion had lost to an Amazonas dual spirit. Since then, he'd been love-struck and obsessed. Even though that spirit later lost and turned into a tiger, he never got over her. Now, seeing twin girl duelists using Amazonas cards, it was hard not to make associations. Still, Hikaru felt everyone was overthinking it. Bastion's tastes were either muscle-bound Amazons or petite Lolas, nothing in between. Anyway, while they awkwardly discussed this, the duel quickly concluded. Though the pro duelists tried hard to coordinate, their inexperience with tag duels showed. Sometimes they even clogged each other's plays. Thankfully, they understood each other's decks well. If it had been strangers using attribute-specific lockdowns, they'd be cursing each other. Before coming to this world, Hikaru once used an insect deck with insect-only special summons and got triple flamed by his teammate. In contrast, the Taylor sisters weren't just tag dueling specialists, they were literal twins. They alternated lines seamlessly, their decks were identical, and even their thoughts practically synchronized. Against pros unfamiliar with the tag format and synergy, they crushed them outright, stunning the audience and security officers alike. Hikaru wasn't surprised. In the original series, the Taylor sisters were the strongest tag duelists. In the story, they steamrolled every tag duelist from the XYZ dimension. Even the main cast couldn't beat them in tag format, needing special effort and dueltaning to barely scrape a win. Honestly, even Jaden and Chaz felt the pressure. Their performance today proved they weren't bluffing when they called themselves the strongest tag duelists. No wonder they so confidently declared they'd challenge them after transferring schools. But I'll definitely beat them with Hikaru. I'll win with Hikaru by my side. They shouted at the same time, then froze, locked eyes, and, like gladiators, pressed their hands together in a mini-pushing contest, bickering over who was the better partner. Only one spot left, the Taylor sisters had already declared a duel with Hikaru. Ha ha ha. Hikaru wiped the sweat from his brow. Bastion, still watching the stream back home, was probably desperate to join the rematch, too. Chapter 187, Skull Knight. From then on, the Friendship Cup proceeded in a relatively peaceful atmosphere. As the days passed, thanks to advanced technology and the powers of card spirits, the area of the satellite district acquired by Kaiba Corp rapidly developed. Kaiba Corp built numerous facilities, and since this territory now belonged to them, they didn't bother with courtesy toward the locals. Soon, duel fields and world publicity centers were established, along with everyday goods stores and specialty shops, which the satellite district had never dreamed of. Kaiba Corp didn't care whether someone was from the upper or lower district, as long as your deck had 40 cards, you were welcome. To address currency incompatibility, Kaiba Corp even issued special cards distributed freely to anyone with a valid 40-card deck. What people did with them afterward, trade, barter, or otherwise, was up to them. To a resource-starved satellite district, this was a blessing. It was hard enough to be a duelist. Not everyone had a complete deck. Kaiba Corp was basically handing out 2 weeks' worth of rations for free. The district wasn't exactly starving, but hey, who doesn't like free stuff? Thanks to these efforts, Kaiba Corp and the interdimensional visitors were gradually seen in a friendlier light by the locals. Those like Yugo, who frequently interacted with the interdimensional travelers, were especially open and willing to share more about their world with Hikaru. A Skull Knight? Jaden and the others gathered around, full of question marks, listening to Yugo. Yeah. Yugo gestured wildly. It only appears at night. They say it tracks people down, rides a horse to duel and destroy them, a skeletal knight. Never mind why it duels. Why is it riding a horse? Chaz interjected. Because it's a turbo duel, duh. Yugo laughed. If it's not a turbo duel, it's not a real duel. Turbo duel, huh? They all looked toward Hikaru and Yusei, who were tuning a motorcycle, this world's specialized dual vehicle known as a D-wheel. It could auto-drive and read cards. In this world, people were used to turbo duels, and regular duels didn't excite anyone. As a result, there were few professionals in standard formats. Rumor had it that there was a strange secret behind this, known only to insiders and the elite. Hikaru, however, knew the truth. In the world of 5Ds, D-wheel turbo duels resonated with the perpetual motion engine, generating infinite energy to power the world. Here, dueling wasn't just the most important activity, it was the core of civilization. Since he hadn't found any sign of Kaiba Corp in this version of the world, Hikaru concluded that while the people and events of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds existed, and the details were undoubtedly different. Despite that, overall, the setting still echoed 5Ds. Understandable. His own world wasn't exactly identical to what he remembered either. As for the Skull Knight, even Hikaru wasn't sure. Was it that random duelist Jack one-shot in episode 1? Though not good with science, Hikaru was handy with machines. Assisting UCI was easy enough, and he didn't need to focus as much. So he picked up bits and pieces. Apparently, the Skull Knight appeared only at night, riding a skeletal horse, an old legend in this world, part urban myth. Okay, Yugo, no need to scare them, Rin said, grabbing his flailing hands. Still sounds kinda familiar, Alexis said, troubled. Chaz nodded. Urban legends? Ghost stories? Jaden scratched his head. Honestly, I've dueled demons, zombies, robots. It's not that weird. Pretty normal, really. What? Huh? Yugo and Rin were stunned. Rin, the supposedly aloof one, was the first to ask, "Or really?" It's not that strange. Could be a dual monster spirit. Dual monster spirit? That's just a myth. You guys have those stories, too? Great. Here, let me show you something. Hey, Captain Gold, you there? At his call, the golden figure shimmered faintly beside him. Rin and Yugo jumped. They seemed to catch a glimpse of a golden outline but couldn't make out the details. Whoa, you guys can see that? Chaz was surprised. I kind of felt it. Yugo stammered. Though they hadn't had Selena's level of training, their innate talent let them vaguely sense its presence. UCI, meanwhile, looked up curiously but saw nothing at all. The group then explained interdimensional travel to Yugo and Rin. When they learned it was possible to encounter card spirits, bond with them, and travel or duel together, both kids were visibly awed. To be honest, if UCI hadn't been through all he had, he might have been thrilled too. They chatted for a long time with Yugo, even analyzing various urban myths based on what they knew. Eventually, they planned to take the kids to Kaiba Corp. Some new exhibits there might amaze them. Though younger by 2 or 3 years, the kids were skilled enough as duelists to earn a good evaluation and gifts. They'd never left the satellite district, so they were thrilled. They told UCI, who nodded and returned to tuning the D-wheel. That evening, with the sky dark, Hikaru helped test the D-wheel on the underground track. Once the final readouts came in, he and UCI high-fived excitedly. They'd done it, a handmade D-wheel with a built-in perpetual motion engine. Nearly perfect. Now it just needed fine-tuning. Hikaru was pumped. He wasn't great with tech, but working with UCI had helped him understand many concepts. He now had the full confidence to modify Professor Banner's dimensional gate formula. That night, Hikaru packed up his gear and notes and headed back to base. 2 police cruisers escorted him. He had no complaints until halfway through, he suddenly noticed Tiara materialize beside him and tug his arm. Hikaru didn't resist, she pulled him just in time. A shadowy figure swept past. Both police officers collapsed instantly. Strange flames rose nearby, and smoke thickened. Hikaru straightened, looking ahead with Tiara. A towering figure atop a skeletal horse stared him down. Hollow eyes. Bare bones. A skeletal duelist. The very urban legend he'd just heard about? Hikaru raised an eyebrow. Or, had it been stalking him all along, waiting for him to be alone? The bone horse bowed its head. Skeletal plates on its back rose, forming a dual disc, glowing ominously. Figures. Makes sense. Hikaru couldn't identify this spirit. But if it was challenging him to a duel, retreat wasn't an option. Fine then. Let's see what your legend's all about. He activated his dual disc. Hikaru, LP, 4000. Skull Knight, LP, 4000. Chapter 188, Dragon Necro Nethersoul Dragon. Come. Show me your dual, interdimensional human. It can talk? Hikaru raised an eyebrow. My turn. Draw. Thankfully, the opponent didn't insist on the writing duel format popular in this world, but initiated a standard duel instead. Though he couldn't identify what this thing was, and couldn't use his preferred intel-based dual strategy, Hikaru wasn't particularly concerned. He glanced at his hand and played a card. I activate the field spell Fusion Recycling Plant. The sound of clanging filled the air. Swarms of drones hovered over the field, beginning their work. Fusion Recycling Plant's effect activates. By discarding a card from my hand, I can add one polymerization from my deck or graveyard to my hand. He discarded a card and added Fusion Substitute to his hand. Next, I normal summon Elemental Hero Prisma. A crystalline warrior with wing-like appendages materialized on Hikaru's field. Once per turn, I reveal a fusion monster from my extra deck, then send a fusion material listed on it from my deck to the graveyard. Prisma's name becomes that card's until the end of the turn. I reveal Thunder Dragon Colossus and send Thunder Dragon from my deck to the graveyard. A universal fusion material? That is quite powerful, the Skull Knight said, amused. Proceed with your duel, interdimensional human. He seemed totally unfazed, confident, even. Hikaru frowned. He still couldn't get a read on the opponent, but that was fine. I activate the spell card, Thunder Dragon Fusion. He flipped another card. This lets me return monsters from my field, graveyard, or banished zone to the deck to fusion summon a Thunder Fusion monster. Squinting, Hikaru raised a clenched fist like lightning striking. Step into the realm of evolved fusion, fusion summon. Thunder Dragon Colossus. Boom! Lightning crashed from above. A shadowy black dragon slowly emerged from the mist. Thunder Dragon Colossus, level 8 DRK Thunder 2600 ATK. Oh ho, an imposing monster indeed, the Skull Knight said, unfazed. You seem awfully confident, Hikaru said, eyeing him. But is it confidence, or the arrogance of a nobleman? I activate the effect of Metalfoes Fusion in the graveyard. I shuffle it into the deck to draw one card. He drew and set a card. Set 1. End turn. Ah! The Skull Knight chuckled, faint blue flames curling from his lips. My turn. Draw. As he spoke, Hikaru saw his body suddenly swell. The skull face loomed directly in front of him, like it might devour him whole. Hikaru crouched instinctively. A wave of death and darkness washed over him, sparking a fear he couldn't explain. It vanished as fast as it came. Still, he now knew for sure, this opponent was no ordinary spirit. Tiara clapped her hands sharply. In a flash, she summoned Infernoid Permise. The arrival of the demon gave Hikaru a protective buffer. The black demon burned with eerie flames, repelling much of the deathly aura. The Skull Knight let out a bizarre jeje cackle. It was the first time Hikaru had ever heard such a chilling laugh in real life. As I suspected from days of watching. That confirmed Hikaru's suspicion. This guy had been stalking him, waiting for him to be alone. The darkness in you is far greater than I imagined. It may lack that ultimate blackness, but the evil power within, yes, it suits my criteria. He laughed eerily again, jaw clicking so hard it seemed it might literally fall off. Evil power? Hikaru glanced at Tiara, who shrugged. She didn't differentiate between good and evil. Her actions came from divine duty. However, to humans, her power and creations were clearly evil. Just like how Leo Akiba had sensed darkness when she possessed Kanin Kanbayashi, now with Infernoid Permise added to the mix, it was no wonder she and Hikaru looked like villains. Apparently, the Skull Knight saw him as a user of dark interdimensional powers, and came specifically for that. My turn, human. Behold a fusion of the dead. What? Hikaru thought he had misheard. In the S dimension, in what was clearly a fusion of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds and Arc V, a synchro-dominant world, this guy was using fusion? He froze. The opponent was already moving. If my opponent controls a monster and I don't, I can special summon this. Come forth, my soldier. Special summon Ghost Lancer, the underworld spearman. A skeletal warrior spinning a spear leapt onto the field. Ghost Lancer, Spectral Flame Lancer, level 5 DRK Zombie 2000 ATK. Ghost Lancer. Wait. Hikaru suddenly realized who his opponent was. There was only one person who used this deck: Roman Goodwin, the older brother of Rex Godwin. So it was the Skull Knight. Not just a dual spirit. But how? Hikaru was stunned. All his talks with Yusei and Yugo confirmed that this world was based on the 5D's anime. So why was a manga exclusive character here? Even so, he came to accept it. Why not? This world's Chaz was Kaiba's disciple after all. Next, I activate the spell card Ghost Fusion. He played a spell card featuring a spinning skull and dragon. Hikaru's eyes widened. This lets me fuse my on-field monster with a zombie from my graveyard or deck. No way, original Ghost Fusion. Hikaru's collector heart ignited. I fuse Ghost Lancer on the field with Ghost Wyvern, the underworld dragon from the deck. The skeleton warrior and the deathly dragon transformed into swirling bones, rising into the air. With the souls of two departed, I summon a dragon from the underworld. The previously calm sky fractured like glass as a massive dragon with a skeletal face clawed at the air. Break open the gates of the underworld. The dragon rammed its skull into the sky, cracking it into a black vortex. Hikaru felt short of breath. Tiara frowned and raised her hand, sending out strings to expand Permise's body, pushing back the oppressive aura. Ghost Fusion Summon. Dragonecro Nethersoul Dragon. Chapter 189, The Regeneration of Fusion. A skeletal dragon roared as it appeared on Skull Knight's field, snarling viciously, clearly pleased with its release. Dragonecro Nethersoul Dragon, Level 8 DRK Dragon 3000 ATK. So it really was that monster. Watching the Death Dragon emerge, Hikaru raised an eyebrow, recalling details from 5D's lore. In the original anime, this kind of concept didn't exist. While the signers possessed powerful synchro dragons, they weren't classified in any concrete way. It wasn't until the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's manga that the notion was formalized. Dual dragons. Including Stardust, Red Dragon, and Black Rose, the level 7 and 8 dragon-type monsters used by the 5D's main cast were collectively named dual dragons. In the manga, all of them were changed to either light or dark attributes, abandoning the anime's color diversity. This change was due to a fundamental narrative shift. The Crimson Dragon, once a force of spacetime and infinite energy in the anime, became an antagonist in the manga, the ultimate phantasmal deity of the dark side. Thus, the manga returned to the classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Motif. The eternal war between light and darkness. Still, that raised another question. If dual dragons existed alongside the ultimate phantasmal deity, what kind of world was this? A righteous Crimson Dragon versus an evil Crimson Dragon? What about Z1, the anime's final boss, the savior and last human? Battle. Dragonecro attack Thunder Dragon Colossus. Soul Rend Fong. Skull Knight pointed at Colossus, commanding his dragon to attack. That snapped Hikaru back to the duel. Dragonecro Nethersoul Dragon. Among the myriad bizarre dual dragons, this one was special. It was a fusion monster. In both anime and manga, the Crimson Dragon wielded synchro power. That Dragonecro, as a fusion monster, was a dual dragon, was stunning. The undead dragon lunged at Colossus and tore into it. The resulting shockwave blew across the field. Hikaru, LP, 4000-3600. Monsters defeated by Dragonecro have their souls imprisoned in darkness. Their shells remain on the field as hollow husks. As he spoke, a shadowy mirage of Thunder Dragon Colossus appeared, darker, more ominous, breathing searing electricity. Dark Soul of Thunder Dragon Colossus, Level 8 DRK Thunder 2600 ATK. Thunder Dragon Colossus, ATK, 2600 0. Cool as it sounded, the effect was straightforward. Dragonecro couldn't destroy monsters by battle, but after damage calculation, the attacked monster's ATK became 0, and it spawned a token with the same stats. Still, in this world, it really stole the monster's soul. Thankfully, Colossus had been napping in the workshop. If it had been awake, it might have panicked, maybe even cried. Battle again. Dark Soul of Thunder Dragon Colossus, attack his Colossus. The blackened dragon flapped its wings and launched lightning, striking the original. As the blast hit, a wave of death aura swept over Hikaru. Hikaru, LP, 3600-1000. You okay, Hikaru? Tiara, seeing him pierced by lightning and down on one knee, asked in a low voice. I'm fine, he waved her off. His body trembled slightly, swaying where he stood. What's wrong, human? Is that all you've got? Skull Knight chuckled. Or have you already fallen, cowed by death's power and presence? If this were a riding duel, you'd have lost the moment your D-wheel stopped. Afraid? No. I'm thrilled. Hikaru stood back up, eyes locked on Dragonecro, face lit with exhilaration. Ghost Fusion. Dragonecro. These were amazing fusion cards. Especially the manga version of Ghost Fusion. His own Ghost Fusion required his LP to be lower than the opponent's to use monsters from the deck. But this one had no such restriction, a straight upgrade. He was beyond excited. Ever since his duel with the Vampire Fräulein, he'd acquired 2 vampire cards, however, he lacked the fusion monsters to play them. They sat in his dorm room, and used less super polymerization melt them on the spot. Too bad dual dragons only obeyed their true masters, his opponent wasn't a real dual spirit. Still, Hikaru's joy made his body tremble. Skull Knight studied him, thoughtful. Interesting. Rex, it seems this fusion duelist you admired is indeed worthy. I set 1 card. End turn. Then it's my turn. Hikaru swiftly drew. A dragon of undeath fused from souls, is it? Then let me show you my graveyard too. I activate the effect of Thunder Dragon Fusion in my graveyard. During a turn, it wasn't sent there, I can banish it to add 1 Thunder monster from my deck to hand. I add Thunder Dragon. Graveyard Fusion? Skull Knight peered into Hikaru's graveyard with hollow sockets. Next, I discard Fusion Substitute to activate Fusion Recycling Plant. I add 1 polymerization from the deck to hand. Then I activate Fusion Substitute's graveyard effect, banish it to return 1 fusion monster from the graveyard to the extra deck, then draw 1 card. Watching this, Skull Knight chuckled, bones clicking. I see. By doing this, Thunder Dragon Colossus and its materials return from death to life. This is Thunder Dragon Rebirth. Hikaru said dramatically. But even so, Colossus only has 2600 attack. It can't beat Dragonecro. Skull Knight roared. Against my wraiths, your resurrection is futile. Don't be so sure, Hikaru grinned, glancing at his hand. Fusion's only just getting started. Chapter 190, Targeted. For many Yu-Gi-Oh! Players, going first is everything. While there are decks designed to go second, even then, breaking through an established board isn't always guaranteed. Letting your opponent go first might become the root of your downfall. Of course, in this world, card rarity, completion rates, and card power are all factors to consider. Hikaru couldn't pull off a 5-6 negate opening like he could before crossing over, and just wait for the opponent to scoop. Still, he had methods, techniques. Resource cycling. Fast hand refreshes. Right now, his hand allowed for things he couldn't do before. I activate the spell card Polymerization. Fusing 2 Thunder Dragons in my hand to fusion summon Thunder Dragon Colossus. Once again, the shadowy dragon emerged, still in attack position. Thunder Dragon Colossus, level 8 DRK Thunder 2600 ATK. Again in attack position? Skull Knight shook his head, bones creaking. Hikaru smiled confidently. Though always using fusion, that didn't mean he wouldn't counter. Ever since arriving in this world, he prepared 2 strategies, each aimed at exploiting this world from different angles. He hadn't drawn them last time. This time, he had. Next, I activate the spell card Shad Doll Fusion. A new fusion, Skull Knight grinned, sensing its power. A Dark Attribute fusion, is it? If my opponent controls a monster summoned from the extra deck, I can send fusion materials from my deck to the graveyard. I send Shaddol Falco and Elemental Hero Avian to the graveyard to fusion summon El Shaddol Wendigo. El Shaddol Wendigo, level 6 WAND Psychic 2800 def. 2800 defense? Good wall, I admit. Regardless, that won't stop my Dragon Necro. Fusion has only just begun. I activate Falco's effect. When sent to the graveyard by a card effect, it special summons itself face down. With a snap, puppet strings drag the monster back onto the field. Wendigo's effect. Once per turn, I can choose a monster to make it immune to battle destruction by special summon monsters this turn. I grant that to Thunder Dragon Colossus. Now, attack. Colossus, target the Dark Soul token. Shatter the fake. Colossus charged, smashing the Phantom. Skull Knight didn't flinch. Only a soul fragment destroyed. No matter. Next turn, Dragon Necro will devour another soul. Your defense is meaningless. Is it? Hikaru grinned. I set one card and end my turn. At the end phase, Fusion Recycling Plant activates. I retrieve a Thunder Dragon from the graveyard. He held the card aloft, then added it to his hand. Skull Knight stared. A 2800 def monster, a 2600 ATK monster, a face-down weakling. What's so impressive? Why is he so confident? He didn't get it. Nonetheless, he felt something stirring. This thrill, it was familiar. The joy he once knew. His name was Roman Goodwin. The former duelist, brother to security director Rex Goodwin, risen from the dead. No, perhaps not even that. He was merely the shell of Roman. A remnant. Roman had been chosen by both light and darkness, entrusted with both powers. By his own will, he chose the path of the earthbound gods, cutting off his crimson dragon arm and giving it to his brother. He wanted Rex to gather the signers and defeat him. So justice would prevail. So the world would keep turning. Maybe not perfect, but at least free from tyranny. But Rex lost faith in humanity. Endless cycles of war between Earthbounds and the Crimson Dragon. Human greed. The cruelty of the elite. He didn't want to gather the signers. He wanted to abandon the Crimson Dragon. Let the interdimensional invaders take it. Thus, he summoned the legend, Skull Knight. Though not the real Roman, though obeying his brother, Skull Knight didn't want to give his power away so easily. Therefore, he'd been watching Hikaru in the shadows. His bonds. His understanding of fusion. And most of all, his darkness in battle. If that's all there is, then better to die now, before the Crimson Dragon takes notice. My turn. Drawl. Right now, I activate my trap, Shaddolcore. A white crystal head materialized, accompanied by wailing spirits. Ever since absorbing spirit pain, this card's sorrow became tangible. Seeing another card of darkness, Skull Knight's Soulfire flared. This card becomes a level 9 dark spellcaster effect monster while on the field. 1450 ATK, 1950 def. And it can substitute for any attribute when used for a Shaddol fusion monster. At that moment, victory was sealed. Skull Knight blinked. He checked his hand, chuckled, and revealed a monster. I normal summon Ghost Wyvern, the Underworld Dragon. Ghost Wyvern, level 40 RK Zombie 1700 ATK. When summoned, I can add one Ghost Fusion from my deck to hand. Wait, what? Nothing happened. It didn't resolve. He wasn't using a dual disc, but an Ancient Priest's dual system. This should be flawless. Sorry, Thunder Dragon Colossus is on the field. Your deck can't add cards to hand by effects other than drawing. A lock effect? Impressive, he muttered, re-evaluating the monster. No wonder Hikaru kept reviving it. No matter. Once Dragon Necro attacks, your candle-like LP will be gone. He grinned, revealing another card. I activate spell card Book of Life. Banish one Thunder Dragon from your graveyard. Special summon Ghostlancer. He had piercing damage. Even if Hikaru had traps, this would end it. At this moment, I activate my trap. Continuous trap, Shaddol Schism. It lets me banish fusion materials listed on a Shaddol fusion monster from the field or graveyard to fusion summon. From field and graveyard. Hikaru only had field materials. I banish Shaddol Core and Shaddol Falco. Strings of puppetry whirled from the void, weaving the path for a forbidden entity. Hear me. Hikaru declared, placing a card from his extra deck. Voice of the divine, word of the god, interpret this command. Fusion summon. Descend. El Shaddol Winda. A green-haired puppet master landed with a crash. 10 strings extended from her fingers, controlling the phantom dragon, the blonde girl, and even a dolphin nearby. El Shaddol Winda, level 5 DARK spellcaster 2200 ATK. Meanwhile, Ghost Lancer returned to Skull Knight's field. Ghost Lancer, level 5 DARK zombie 2000 ATK. Winda, so that's its name? He felt the depth of her darkness. Her level was low, yet the aura rivaled Dragon Necro. Still, only 2200 attack. Shaddol Schism continues. I now send one monster on your field with the same attribute as the summon monster to the graveyard. To the underworld with you, Dragon Necro. The death dragon roared, struggling. However, strings bound it, dragging it back to the beyond. Soon, the unwilling dragon was banished to the graveyard. So, that's its effect, Skull Knight muttered. He stared at his field, then at his hand, and froze. He couldn't play anything. No card responded. He couldn't act. Why? Then he saw it, Winda. And Colossus. El Shaddol Winda's effect, while she's on the field, each player can only special summon once per turn. The divine hates cluttered stage scripts. For Synchro decks, Winda was a death sentence. Skull Knight stared, dumbfounded. To duelists from another world, using these cards was natural once they understood this world, while to him, Winda represented more than that. Summon Restriction. Revival Lock. Search Lock Darkness. Puppetry. Machines. Death. The man before him was a worthy inheritor of his past. A fusion duelist in a world of synchros. Nevertheless, it wasn't enough. He looked at his face down, a trap usable only when taking direct damage. It let him reveal a level 1 monster from hand to special summon another from deck. He still had 2 monsters. Breaking the seal wouldn't be easy. If Hikaru failed, next turn, he could revive Dragon Necro and win. So, what will you do, Hikaru? My turn. Drawl. Skull Knight tensed, nervous, yet thrilled. Would this shadowy duelist, wielder of death and puppets, play it safe? Didn't expect this. Hikaru checked the card. What did this mean? Duels reveal a duelist's heart. To draw the same card now as in turn 1, was that fate? Normal summon Elemental Hero Prisma. Elemental Hero Prisma, level 4 Light Warrior 1700 ATK. Skull Knight sagged slightly. So, he chose immediate victory. I activate Prisma's effect. I reveal Flame Wingman from my extra deck and send Burstinatrix from deck to graveyard. Light shimmered from Prisma. A woman in red armor appeared faintly. Skull Knight saw something in her, reflected in Prisma's glow, his hollow self. He was long dead. Not even Roman. Just a dream's husk. And yet, for a moment, he saw the real him. I activate Miracle Fusion. I banish Avian and Burstinatrix to fusion summon. From death once more. Every motion proved Hikaru's devotion to fusion. Fusion summon. Elemental Hero Flame Wingman. Elemental Hero Flame Wingman. Level 6 WIND Warrior 2100 ATK. Skull Knight knew it. Rarely seen, low ATK, strict materials. Yet he recognized it, its effect mirrored Dragon Necro's. Battle. Flame Wingman attack Ghost Wyvern. Skull Knight, LP, 4000 3600. Flame Wingman's effect, inflict damage equal to the destroyed monster's ATK. Flames engulfed the knight as he swayed in the saddle. Skull Knight, LP, 3600-1900. Winda, attack Ghost Lancer. Skull Knight, LP, 1900-1800. Finally, Thunder Dragon Colossus, direct attack. Hikaru had no idea what the set card was. Still, no reason to hold back now. Colossus gathered thunder, soared into the sky, and rained down lightning. The strike hit. Hikaru blinked in surprise. Sparks lit Skull Knight's body. He began to fade. Skull Knight, LP, 1800. That wraps up this part of What If Fusion Deck User in a Different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.